My name is Marty Houlihan, and I am a member of the Planning Board of Southborough. What I'd like to do is take about 10 minutes to provide an overview of the industrial park zoning bylaw that you will see on the town warrant on April 11th at 11 a.m. It is warrant article number 17, and we thought it would be helpful for you to learn a little bit more about the bylaw. So why the bylaw is being updated? So 1993 is when this bylaw was last adapted, and so it is outdated, and we believe that we need to modernize to industry needs. The bylaw ensures compliance with state law, particularly around small clean energy infrastructure. It improves public safety and environmental protections. And then finally, it introduces rules for data centers and clean energy infrastructure. So what I'd like to do in the next couple of minutes is to provide a compare and contrast around what exists today in town code and what we're proposing for on town floor. So let me share that document. So just to go through a quick summary of key updates. First is we've added explicit performance standard language around noise, vibrations, odor, and emissions. And so these are general statements. Many bylaws that we researched in developing this have such performance standards, and we wanted to add these to industrial parks since we are expanding uses. Next, we created that small clean energy infrastructure. Massachusetts has actually indoctrinated through MGL 164, which is currently in draft, language for by right development of small clean energy infrastructure. What we'd like to do is get ahead of that and make sure that Southborough has proactive bylaw language in place, which empowers our team and in planning board to be able to evaluate and make sure that compliance with these infrastructure builds meet town requirements. Next, we introduced data centers. Data centers would be introduced as a special permit, a brand new section in special permit 174-9, section K, and it's a very long language. And so what we're trying to do here is to provide the town proactive bylaw. Many of you probably have been reading the news and are aware of data centers booming in development. And this is because the population is becoming more and more reliant on AI technology. And other reasons why we keep a lot of information on servers and in the cloud. And so these data centers typically are very large, multiple football fields in size and scope. And we've been seeing lots of them being placed in Virginia, Arizona, Pennsylvania, in very large places, consuming quite a bit of property resources and natural environmental resources. So we didn't want to be in the position as a town where some proponent came and wanted to place a data center and we did not have any bylaws in place, and we would be subjugated to the proponent and Mass General Law. So right now, this is a proactive way for us to put protections in place to ensure that the town of Southborough is protected and that the planning board, because this would be a special permit by planning board, would be able to very clearly evaluate the site plan on multiple different levels. I'm providing a video that will go very much in depth around both the small clean energy infrastructure and data centers, and I'd encourage you to go watch those videos. For today, what I'd like to do is really just kind of follow up on what's changing in the bylaw from what's in town code now and what's moving. In order to do that, I think it might be really easy to just go through a table that I've created, and which, if you went into Town E-Code and Googled Southborough, Massachusetts Town E-Code, Section 174 zoning, you would come up and find the IP district, and you would be able to see our town code. And so the current town code IP bylaw, that second column, indicates all of the information that currently exists and what we're doing in the new IP law about that information. So if we were to go through permitted uses, this has changed. Dwelling on the premises for a night watchman or janitor has been completely removed. The term is outdated and we just don't have that need anymore. Cafeteria on the premises for use by employees and not for general public. We've expanded on that. It's been retained in section B4 of the new bylaw. If you read the warrant article, you can review this, which now includes additional description of commercial kitchen, cafe, or restaurant. We've also added permitted uses, and we've basically moved those up. They exist today, but we've moved them up into permitted use versus just permitted up to 50,000 square feet. So the first is private or nonprofit school, child care, nursery, or kindergarten, and private or nonprofit assisted living resident adult day health care. So those have been moved from special permit, and so we've basically made that by right. Permitted up to 50,000 square feet. So again, in the column 2 is where we have existing town code and what we're asking in the town to approve. Newspaper job printing and publishing, that's been retained and expanded to modernize the language and the technology. So it includes data processing, digital services, media production, and publishing. Office bank and office building, little redundant in that town code. We've retained that in 2 separate places, in section C2 office and in section C7 retail establishments, banks, and consumer services. Wholesale distribution and storage, we've retained that in section C9. Indoor facilities for wholesale trade, distribution, storage of goods and material. Scientific research, including development and light manufacturing. We've retained that, but we've placed that in uses by special permit in section D6, laboratories, life sciences, research, development, commercial manufacturing, and we've removed any personal density requirements that were in the existing code. In addition, on permitted uses up to 50,000 square feet, we have added creative workplace, added under C2, brewery, distillery, cidery, winery, we added in C4, indoor, outdoor recreation, fitness, culture, or facilities, added, small clean infrastructure, added, retail establishments, banks, consumer services with no manufacturing was added, and we included farmers markets and food trucks there. Medical clinics, outpatient care, and diagnostic laboratories have been added. Light manufacturing, with a very descriptive definition of what that is, has been added. And standalone electric vehicle charging stations, pay-to-park facilities, and parking garages were all added. Now, if we look at uses requiring a special permit, it was a very short list and include a lot of housing. We've eliminated the housing in the IP district, and we partially had removed that with the ADU bylaw when we made those changes at the special town meeting last year. And so we've basically continued that stretch, is to remove any sort of housing in IP. So we've retained all uses permitted in that subsection that I just read through. If it exceeds 50,000 square feet, you can still use the use, but you will need to get a special permit through zoning board, except where noted, which would be the planning board for data centers. Accessory apartments, we removed that in last year's special town meeting, according to the ADU bylaw. Conversion of a one-family house, mobile homes, and multifamily housing have all been removed from the IP district. This was a complicated one. Boat library, cemetery, children's camp, golf course, private nonprofit membership club, public utility, riding stable, and ski tow. That's some been removed, some been partially retained. So we partially retained some of it in indoor and outdoor recreation, fitness, cultural, or arts facilities. We've removed entirely boat library, cemetery, and ski tow, and we've retained public utility in the special permit section. Hospital, nursing home, and home for the aged, we moved that up into permitted uses. And we have that in kind of both places, permitted uses, and also medical clinics, outpatient care, and diagnostic laboratories. Private school, nursery, or kindergarten, we've retained that again early on the permitted uses. Veterinarian, animal, hospital, dog kennel, we've retained. However, we've removed no livestock farming. Private garage or parking, as you heard, we've moved that into permitted uses up to 50,000 square feet. Light manufacturing, fabrication, we retained in uses by right up to 50,000 square feet. And again, with that light definition, that light manufacturing definition. And then what we've retained are the ones that currently exist around hazardous waste, adult bookstore, adult video store, heliport, and registered marijuana. Those have all been retained in the current recommended code. Highway major retail at special town meeting, which is AKA the Costco plan, that zoning has been retained, and data centers is new. And so that is the special permit section. So development standards, this is where it's changed slightly. So right now, minimum setbacks are 50 feet in the front and 75 if you're Route 9, and otherwise rear, side, and other would be 50 feet. What we have added language to are very clearly in three things. When it is abutting a residential conservation district, that the any development would have a 100-foot buffer from those in the IP district. And energy infrastructure specifically and data centers would have 1,000 feet setbacks. And this is because of the new noise and above ambient that has been produced and that we've learned through research. So we'd like to have that buffer zone created in those areas. And that's it. So that is kind of the compare and contrast. I would encourage you to read the warrant article, and this is warrant article number 17. We are always available for calls or questions or emails, so please reach out if you have questions before town meeting. We'd love you to share and like this video and send it to your friends. Thanks.